So what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at this problem. And this problem also asks us to take a look at average rate of change. So we're going to use that same equation that we have practiced on the last video. And so average rate of change is going to be y2 minus y1 over t2 minus t1. And so really all we need to find every single time is these four values. Once you can identify these four values, you're good to go. That is all we have to do. So let's try one. So for options A, B, and C, they're all looking at between different years to see what that average rate of change is. So let's do an example. Let's try 1996 to 2001, for instance. So we have 1996 to 2001. So this is going to be T1. This is going to be T2. And our Y value for 1996 is 387. Oops. And our Y2 value for 2001 is 613. So now all we're going to do, average rate of change, we're going to plug it in. So y2, 613, minus y1, which is 387. T2 is 2000, is 2001, minus T1, which is 1996. So 613 minus 387. Feel free to use a calculator. Don't have to solve this in your head if you do not want to. Is 226 over there's 5 years in between 1996 and 2001. And if we do that as a division problem, we get 45.2, and that would be CD players sold per year over this specific time period. So A, B, and C, that's how you're going to solve that. For D, the key point here is the same as in the other one. So I'm going to erase what's down here. If you need it, go ahead and pause and write that down. But all right, close enough. All right, so for D, the question is, and there's two parts, right? So you want to break this up into two pieces. So I'm going to put a line to really designate it. Between which two successive years did sales increase the most? So successive means back to back. An example of that would be like 1995 to 1996 or 2001 to 2002. So it needs to be back to back in order to be successive. And that's the same thing for that second problem. There's also successive. So the first part asks us to find when sales increased most quickly. So what we're looking for is for the gap between any 2 years to be the biggest. So let's just choose an example so we can kind of make a, start getting a pattern. So let's look at 1993 to 1994. And I just chose that because it's at the top and straightforward. So 1993, we had 512 CD players sold. 1994, we had 564 sold. So you can either kind of look at this and make a judgment about how big that gap is between 512 and 564, or you can solve for the average rate of change and plug it into y2 minus y1 over t2 minus t1. And then let's say we look at the next gap. So 94 to 95. So from 94, we still have the 564, but 95, we have 466. So notice it's going down. So this is going to be a year when we have a decrease rather than an increase. So I may want to keep that one in mind when I'm looking at part 2, when I'm looking at decreases. And again, you can still plug this back in to your average rate of change to actually find the value and work your way down the list. You want to be able to make decisions about which ones are going to have large gaps and which ones are going to have small gaps. And if you do that visually or if you do that mathematically, both are going to be quite fine as options to be able to solve this problem.